All right, ladies and gentlemen. So yesterday what we focused on creating part one of this arm, which was mostly the upper arm that we focused on. When we look at it, it's kind of thinner this way, thicker that way. We've got the bicep, the tricep, the deltoid, and the elbow. You don't need to know the names of these things, but I know a lot of you know them from science class or just from track or working out. Now what we're going to do to finish this hand off is we're going to beef up the forearm a little bit, and we're going to make a hand. Just like we did before, the clay that we're going to start and work with should all be approximately the size of a dime. All right, so we're working slightly smaller than we did last time. I know before when we were working with a quarter. The more important thing for me is if the little ball that you make is a little too big or a little too small, the most important part for me is that they are all at least the same. So try to make sure as you're working that you're working with all similar sized pieces for the beginning. That's going to help make things a little bit easier. That means that you and I will both be working approximately the same size. It should ensure that the clay that we're using will last for the entire project. Because again, we're going to be using this clay to make a full body. I know some of you might have a little bit of leftover, but for the most part, if you did exactly what I did on the first one, that means you're pretty much out of clay. So this next chunk that I'm giving you is going to be enough really for what we're doing. All right, for the forearm, what we're going to do is we are going to take one of our little balls of clay and we are going to split it in half. Okay. Just pinch it and split it in half. We're going to use that half piece. Again, I just broke them both into half. Use that half piece. What I'm going to do is I'm going to take this little one and I'm going to roll it out. And I'm going to roll it out. And what this is going to start to do is this is going to kind of beef up my forearm a little bit. Since it is a little thin for the a little bit thin. It's just not finished. And as you can see, there's a lot of muscle groups that sort of wrap around the forearm and connect to the upper arm. Those are the muscles that move our hands and move our fingers. So we're going to need them. So that little piece that I rolled out, I've taken that and I've kind of flattened it a little bit. And that piece, what I'm going to do is I'm going to kind of take it, I'm going to look at my arm, I'm going to look at the deltoid side. This is the outside of the arm. I'm going to work on the inside of the arm. And what I want to do is I want to take this little piece that I've created and I kind of want to just wrap it across the inside. You can see the front part of it almost down here by the wrist. And then it sort of wraps around. And if you've noticed, mine goes up beyond the elbow. Remember that little crease I said there was the elbow. So I have it kind of attached a little bit on the front here. And now what I'm going to do is I'm going to kind of blend that into my forearm. Now just like this, we're kind of working with the idea of creating sort of a skinless person right now. So that skinless person is going to look like we can see the separate muscle groups. So the part about blending this in together, we don't have to blend it into the point where we no longer see the separation. Kind of want to see the separation and definition of the muscles. Now what I'm going to do, just like in real life, is I'm going to wrap that forearm part that sort of extends up beyond the elbow, I'll wrap it lightly into the back of the arm. Just where the actual tendons for that part of your body really attach. So you can see I've added a little bit more thickness to the inside part of the forearm. And I've added that little piece right in here. Again, I want to try to keep the wrist pretty thin. And what I want to do is I want to kind of bulk up the forearm a little bit. So when you look at it this way, you're really not going to notice any difference in what we did. When you look at it this way, we should have a little bit more, I guess, if you want to consider meat on the bones on the inside. I want to take the other half of that clay. Okay, that other half of that clay. I'm going to take that little piece, and remember, this was broken off, so this is much smaller than a dime. I'm going to take that, and I'm literally going to break that in half. Okay, I want a little piece here. Okay. This little piece is going to be for the outside part of the forearm. just going to roll it out into a little sort of like hot dog sausage kind of figure, and I'm going to flatten it out just a little bit. Again, this should be a much smaller piece than what we put on the inside of the arm. This is going to go right on the outside of the forearm, okay? And this is going to be the outside of the forearm, and it's going to connect the forearm to the upper arm on the side, again, right about where that elbow is. So you can see side view, front view, inside view. This little piece right over here, I'm just going to kind of smush in. I'm going to attach it to the forearm, and I'm going to smooth it out into the top. Now this piece of the forearm, you'll notice the most when you flex your arm, when you bend it up. This basically controls the lifting and sort of rotating of your forearm. Also, the outside edge of this muscle really helps move your fingers around. So I'm going to put that in there, so now you can see my forearm's got a little bit more meat on it, a little thicker, especially up by the elbow. You can see the back elbow is sort of surrounded by these muscles over here. I don't have to mush them into the elbow. We can keep that sort of definition. The areas where I've sort of smoothed out are really the areas in real life where the tendons all kind of come together. So we're trying to make this little brolic arm. All right, outside deltoid bicep, tricep, elbow, forearm muscles, got the elbow crease on the inside. Right. So I've got that part of the arm pretty much done. Now I'm going to take another piece of clay. This one is full size of my dime. And now what I want to do is I want to kind of start flattening it out. Okay? This is going to be the basis for my hand. Now the one thing about the hand that we want to do is we don't want to make the hand too small. Usually too tiny kind of looks a little freakish. So when we want to look at it and we want to consider how big to make it, you want to kind of consider where the wrist is, okay? Where your wrist is to where your elbow is. Well, you know, it doesn't have to be that long, but the hand should be close, okay? So I'm sort of flattening this out into a nice, big oval, but I am keeping it pretty thick, all right? I'm not going out of my way to make it really, really tiny, all right? Should be pretty thick still. Again, this is a full piece, a full dime that I used. Now we're going to use our toothpick, and I'll kind of zoom in a little bit here. The toothpick we're going to use to try to make a thumb. Now what you want to do is going to start basically looking like a lobster claw, but what I'm going to do is I'm going to sort of pick out a spot, and I'm just going to kind of slice it separated with my toothpick. But again, like I said, it's going to be sort of like a little lobster or crab's claw. This part takes a little bit of patience and work, but what I'm going to do is just try to sort of round off that little claw a little bit so it doesn't look too sharp looking or too much like a lobster claw. What I hope to get out of it is something that looks almost like a mitten. Now, if you're a little kid and you wore that mitten. How long should the thumb be? Well, the one thing I would say, don't make it too short. If you saw where I kind of cut in, it was almost halfway into it. I left a lot of space on this side so I can have fingers. I just took a little bit off that side. And that's going to be the start of my hand. I'm going to kind of take a look at it in respect of my entire sort of arm, and I'll kind of see like how it fits where it fits. Now what I want to do is, there should be a little bit of the edge of that stick sticking out. What I want to do is I kind of want to find a way to sort of jab that into my hand and get my hand attached to the rest of the stick. And you can see I kept it thick enough that you really can't see the stick as it's in there. I'm going to press it in a little bit so that there's no gaps between this and the wood over there. And what I'm going to do is just smooth it out a little bit so those pieces are attached. You don't have to go crazy. Now for this hand, I'm going to take some of this scrap clay and get two really tiny little pieces. the kind of pieces that you would have used for like the tear duct or the eye muscle. We're going to get 2 of those going. And there's 2 little bones that stick out. They're over there by the wrists. We want to add those things because it looks kind of thin and a little wimpy over there where the hand is connected. What I'm going to do is I'm going to take one of those little dots of clay. I'm going to put it on one side. And I'm going to take the other one. And I'll put it on the other side. Okay. You can see from the side view of the arm, those 2 little dots, those are going to be there to kind of beef up the joint where the hand connects. So it doesn't look too skinny or too wimpy. You also want to kind of keep it looking like it's a little bump. If you look at your own body, you should see a couple little bumps over there. Well, I'm just going to lightly smooth those in. Now for the hand itself, I don't have to go crazy, but we're going to take our toothpick. Just the way we cut through and made this one finger, I don't want to make them separate. What I do want to do is I just want to give them a little bit of a line so I can distinguish them from one another. Where to do that? Well, we want to kind of think somewhere halfway on it. We don't want the knuckles on the hand to start all the way down where the cut of the thumb is. You see there's a little bit of space between my knuckles and that. And, you know, my hand, my fingers are kind of like half of my palm. So if I see that I've made my thumb about here, my knuckles should start a little bit higher. So what I'm going to do is, first things first, I'm going to try to just divide this lobster claw in half. I'm just going to drag my toothpick through it, make a little bit of a line. Okay? And what I'm looking to do is just kind of make 3 fingers out of this. Got a thumb and then separated these 2. After that, we're going to divide each one of those halves into half. We try to keep them relatively similar as far as thickness goes. Make the pinky a little thinner and the middle and the ring finger a little thicker. That's totally all right. Again, I am not cutting all the way through on that hand. What I can do is I can kind of turn some of these things now and make them seem a little bit more relaxed. And, ladies and gentlemen, maybe just a little bit of blending and moving, we have ourselves a little bit of an arm. All right? So front view, side view, back view, and inside view. All right? And that is our first anatomy lesson on how to make a little bit of a hand. And there's other little details we could try to get in there, but hey, listen, I'm doing some pretty advanced stuff with you right now anyway. Regardless of say, based on the success of the face, each and every one of you are capable of doing this. All right? And you can see we don't have to blend out or smooth out to no ends. Front, side, back, and inside. And just like I've said before, make sure that when you're done, that you take several different pictures of your work. And I'm going to do that right now. I've got my side view. I've got my front view. Got my rear view. And you could do an inside. It's probably the least exciting part, but at least 2, if not 3 pictures of your work is what I'm asking for every single time. This is going to be making the arm, step 1. Part 2, but the first sort of practice that we're making over here. Okay.